Hey, my name is Dwayne, and this is a tutorial on how to turn 2D images into 3D prints. And to do that, you would need Blender or HueForge. Now, with Blender, this is just the default display, but what you need to do is select everything and press X and delete. From there, you go to Add, Mesh, Plane, and you could change the view just to see from over the top, and then select this tab. So you could find any picture. Well, not any picture. For Blender, it's easier with symbols like this I have here. So I'll just be using the PlayStation symbol. And from there, you would need to match the dimensions of the image to the plane that you have in Blender. So mine would be 4.52 and 2.83. After that, you would go to edit mode. You right click, subdivide. And what this basically does is the more cuts that you have, the clearer the image that you upload is. So you'd go to the max amount of cuts. And from a video that I watched, apparently you could do 100 multiple times, but whenever I try that, it freezes. So I'm not sure if that would work for everybody. But the more cuts you have, the clearer the image is. From there, you click tab twice, go back to edit mode, right click again, and you could extend this to 3. And I know anything after that for me freezes. But from there, you go back to object mode. You click this toolbar right here, add modifier, displace, and then you go down to this texture. You click new, open, and find the image that you want to use. And like I said, I'll be using the PlayStation logo that I showed before. And let's find it. Would be this one right here. So if you look at it, the image is kind of extruded up top like that, but you can fix that by going back to this option here, going to strength and changing it to negative 0.25. And you could really just adjust it from there so that it comes out like that. And then you click this menu, arrow, apply. Now from here, what I do is I add another plane and match it to the same plane before. So 4.52, 2.83. And I extrude the plane. And to extrude the plane, you just go to object edit mode. You press E, and then it extrudes just like that. So you extrude it because once you put it in the slice, if you don't extrude and you put it in the slicer, because the plane is already so thin, it would cut out the whole plane and just leave the image that you have. So you extrude it just to make it thick so that it doesn't cut out the whole plane and just leave you with the image. And then from there, you would go back to object mode, select the whole thing, and join the two planes by pressing Control and J. So now it doesn't really show on the bottom, and that's how I just prefer it to come out. So from there, you would file, export, STL, and you could save it to use whatever name, but you could save it to whatever folder that you want to. Once you export it, you go to the slicer and add it. So here we go. Yes. And this is how it would look in the slicer. Now, for this image, the infill, since it's something simple, the infill doesn't really matter. You could put it to 15, you could put it to 100, but make sure you select the brim just support, just to make sure that it doesn't move or anything while it's printing. And you could edit or scale it to however you want, however big you want. The bigger it is, longer it takes. And from there, you would just slice it. And there's a color adjuster, a slider right here. Basically, you drag it to whatever layer you would want it to switch the color at, and click the add button, add color change, and I'm doing blue. And this is how it would look after being printed. So once you slice that again, it tells you the time, an hour and 20 minutes, and then you export the G code. And I'll just save it as PlayStation test. That's basically just Blender and 2D images. I feel like with Blender, it's easier just to do something simple versus what I would do with like manga panels. But for manga panels, I use another program called HueForge, and it's a paid program. There's 4 different licenses, and I just got the personal use lifetime one, which is a one-time purchase of $18. I feel like that's just like more beneficial to me right now. But there are 4 different options, and these are the tiers that they have and what comes with the purchases. But with HueForge, you could do more detailed images, like real life images. You might take a picture with friends or yourself, or you could do manga panels, which is what I usually do. So what you would do is basically the same process. You save the image, and this is what the program looks like with the software. And the one I have is a little bit, I think it's an older version just because I wasn't able to download the new version due to the needing to update my computer, but this is what I work with right now. But in the program, you would click open file, image, and you would find the image that you want to use. And let's say I wanted to do, okay, here we go, this image right here. Now, this right here is the STL. You could zoom in, flip it. You could see like the layers. This is the STL, and this is the image you uploaded. So you have it side by side. So you could match the coloring and the layers, which is down here. So you could adjust the layers to basically match the image. Most of the time, it comes out pretty much identical to the image, but you could really just adjust it to how you want. Sometimes I do it here. Sometimes I do it in the Prusa slicer, just as like a final change on how I want it to look. But from there, you would export it. And also, if you click describe, it gives you the steps on when to switch the color. But like I said, I sometimes I just change it anyway. But you would click file, export STL, and just name the file. There you go to the slicer again, and we could just delete this, add, and we have the STL file right here, open. Now you scale it however you want. For images that are more detailed and for images that are very layered, they're going to take a lot longer than something that's not as detailed and something that you do like not so big in the slicer. But what you want to do is adjust the layers so it's at least more than 24, or however high you want really, but the higher it is, the longer it would take. So this should be fine. From there, the settings that you would need, I have them pre-saved already, but you go to print settings, the layer height should be 0.08. The first layer height should be 0.16. For the seam position, I saw reviews, people saying that you should put it to nearest it so that there's not as much like those silky lines that come out like on the panels when they're printed. But I haven't really noticed much of a difference. For infill, you do 100% rectilinear, and for the support, I just use organic. And from there, you would just also just do the support on build plate and brim, and then you slice it. Because this is pretty detailed, it might take a little bit longer to slice, but it's pretty much just a waiting process from here. But after it slices, there's the slider, the same slider from before, and you follow the steps that were in Hue Forge that I showed to adjust the layers for the color changes, or just whatever you want to do with it really. But you adjust the layers and the color changes on the printer when it's printing. Basically, when it gets to that next color, the printer unloads the filament by itself, and you just manually remove it and change it to whatever color you want to use next. And you could do 3 colors, 4 colors. It really just depends on how you want it to come out. I usually just do 3 colors: black, gray, and white. It's just the same process, but the color switches itself are just manual. And from there, you just print whatever, any images, panels, anything that comes to mind, anything you want to bring to life with a 3D print, you could do it. I recommend like HueForge. I feel like it's good for the price, and it's $18 for lifetime use of just personal use. It's not like, I know like for other programs, it's definitely a lot more expensive, but I feel like this one is very affordable, especially if you're not looking to sell anything, but just make cool prints, just like what I do. But this is just a long wait just to have it export. But after that, it just shows how long it would take. Usually, prints like this would range from 2 hours and 2.5 hours to maybe 4 or 5 hours. It really just depends on how detailed the image is or how many layers you have. That just determines the length of the print itself. All right. After waiting for that to finish slicing, you're on this screen now, and you basically, this is the slider here that I was talking about before, and you would adjust the layers. Now, there are steps in HueForge, but I usually just do it myself based on how I want it to look. And so let's see. Add color change. Also, I start with black. You add the color change. Then we would go with gray. And then white. And you're really just trying to match it to the image that you have. So let's see. This one's not perfect, but this is just the process with color changing. And you would slice it again. This time it shouldn't take long. And we just wait for it to generate the G code. But this is just how it looks like on the template here. This is how it would look when it comes out after it's done printing. And from there, you would just export the G code like you would any other 3D print, upload it to a USB, and then put it on any printer. And this manga panel itself, I think, takes about 5 hours and 30 minutes just because of the detail and the layers that it has. But for reference, I did this image and this is how it basically came out. And I feel like it came out very detailed. This is my best one so far, but this is just the final product after, the layers and after it finishes printing. And that's pretty much a tutorial on how to turn 2D images into 3D prints.